regarding gender and unconscious bias. It's very difficult to address. How would you suggest we look at that as an industry?
Unconscious bias, I think the biggest challenge is for people to admit how much biases they actually have. Because a lot of the time, if you ask the average person, are you biased according to gender, ethnicity, disability, sexuality? The answer probably no. However, everybody has biases. So the first stage is admitting it, and it's only then that you can look to address it. I think another thing is, talking about alienation, is the focus on unconscious bias has all been on management. But actually, some of the diverse talent, they have their own biases. And I think it's so important as a manager now to recognise that your team today is going to might look very differently in 10 years or 15 years time. So as a manager, you have to equip yourself with a greater skill set in order to manage the team and understand different cultures and different behaviours. So I think that is a huge challenge.
One of the things that links to that is the rise of a new generation. So you've got millennials, the top end of millennials have reached 40 years of age, and then you've got Generation Z who are also coming into the workplace now. The way their wealth needs to be managed, indeed the wealth that they have, I read a stat the other day about women controlling more than half of wealth in a few years' time. The way that they want and need their money managed is going to be very different to how money has been managed in the past.
My market is entirely women, and generationally they kind of sit between the ages sort of 30 to 50. I do have some millennials in there as well, but the what you're just talking about there, just in terms of behavioural biases, we don't consciously know what our behavioural biases are because they tend to sit in our subconscious. But actually to go through some kind of exercise, I do an exercise with a lot of the clients that I work with to actually understand what their subconscious biases are. And that really helps me because then I know how to design a framework around my services to help them with those, to manage those behavioural biases. So if, for example, somebody's subconscious behavioural bias is, maybe geared towards herd mentality, following the crowd because that's what they learnt growing up around money, or maybe they don't have the confidence, then I know if they're going to go into an investment and the markets start coming down, they will need a phone call from me to give them some reassurance. So if I was to say to them, if the market goes down by 5%, are you going to worry? They might say no, but their subconscious belief is going to be like, ah! So, we have to manage that and use software and technology, embrace technology. There's some hugely exciting new technology coming to the market right now about how do we actually understand the cognitive biases that affect us as human beings. Why are we still in this old-fashioned traditional recruitment process of give us your CV and let's have a look at your qualifications and your skills, when actually what we've been talking about is that this person who's on this piece of paper may have some huge opportunities around gut instincts, gut intuition, which would be amazing to bring into a business in some form.
And it's really important that it's not just the recruitment process, it's actually the feedback process, it's the promotion process, it's the day-to-day working as well, where these biases and language, we really need to think about the way we communicate with our colleagues.
And especially when you look at our industry and how traditional it is and how slow to change it can be, and we talk about millennials, we've got this wave of young people coming in, and I say they, we have some millennials around the table, we're all inclusive here, but it's really different. I've witnessed in my own organisation that any time we take apprentices or graduates in, as Laura said earlier, they want to do good, they want a sense of belonging, they want to give back, and normally they all join an employee resource group. So they'll join Pride or the Women's Group or our Disability and Inclusion Group, Mind Matters, our Cultural Awareness Network. And what's really interesting about it is you have lots of young white males and females in the Cultural Awareness Network. You have lots of young men in the gender network because they can't tolerate it. I was at a big global conference yesterday and there were two young sub-20 young men doing some filming, and they said there's loads of men here, it's all white middle class men here, there's not many women, are they notice immediately. You ask a man who's white in his 50s, and they probably wouldn't even notice. So I think having an awareness around the observations, the behaviours, the desires of the impending talent coming into our business, and also they're the same values that our future customers have.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and if we don't address that, and if we're not relevant, we're not going to attract that talent. So we have to be so aware of what that talent looks like, what's important to them, and how we communicate with them.
And cultivating that success in a different way to how
Yeah.
you might have done when you employed someone 10 years ago.
I think as well, sometimes I think the elephant in the room is a lot of the people, stereotypical people in the industry, are the people in positions that they can affect change. But it is human nature to think, if diverse talent win, do I lose? And I think people aren't going to say, I'm a bit scared about this diversity agenda because I'm going to be out. And then it all becomes a bit insidious and underground, and people are a bit worried about it, and then they're talking about it but not acting upon it, that kind of thing. And I think there's a responsibility across the board for people to show that it's not about winning and losing, or showcasing, actually, like, share your platform. It's not that I want to push you off it, I want to come on it with you, or this is why it benefits the workforce, and that could be, if it needs to be, profitability of the business to engage a younger audience.
And is that about maybe then more businesses coming together collaboratively, rather than us going off and doing our own thing sometimes, coming together more collaboratively to support, so that technologies can support? Because a big issue for the millennial generation is they don't feel like they can go and seek advice because A, they can't afford to, B, because there's not many firms that can deliver advice at that kind of age range because of regulations and it's too expensive for them to do. These are some of the issues. Then you've got the trust gap and issues around, actually, do I want to go and see a typical financial advisor whose focus is going to be on products? And this is where we need to get more education out to consumers about, actually, there is a huge difference in the market between old-fashioned financial transactional advice and financial planning, for example, or financial coaching. And so we need to develop that and embrace how we can work together to come up with a solution.
I completely agree. I think the asset management industry as a whole, naturally, because we all compete against each other, companies are going out unilaterally into regions, into communities. I think the only way we really solve this is by scaling together, pooling our resources together. We're always going to be more powerful, and singing from the same hymn sheet, one message. That's the way you're really going to resonate with communities. I suppose historically ESG has focused more on the E. But going forward, it's clear that the S and the G are going to become more prominent. And whether it's the social side, and you can class diversity and inclusion as either social or governance. Governance because it actually leads to better company results, or social because it's actually creating greater equality. So I do think that at some point the finger's going to be pointed at asset managers who are launching products. 300 products were launched in Europe alone last year. Is to say, okay, what are you doing internally? Let's look at the makeup of your board. Let's look at the makeup of your senior investors. Let's look at the makeup of your senior salespeople. And when that does happen, we just hope the asset management industry can put their hand up and say, actually, these are the initiatives that we're doing to make the change within our companies.
I'm going to direct my question to Michael here, because Michael, you're our millennial on the panel. Tell me about how you got into the industry, because it was that social impact element was quite important to you, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. So when I was leaving my last job, I wanted to work somewhere that had a steep learning curve, where I could make an impact. And I think that the impact in millennials wanting to make an impact in the workforce, I think, always is seen as they want to save the world and they want to sort of change society. And I don't think it's always that. It's they want to either make an impact personally, make an impact on someone's life, maybe in improving, giving them a better product as an example. And seeing Boring Money, a company that we were looking to, it was quite easily tangible to see the benefit that it was going to have on people. We were looking to help consumers make better financial decisions, and then we were going to use our interactions with consumers to help the investment industry make better products to speak to consumers. That was, I guess, the societal impact. But on a personal level, the impact was I would be given the opportunity to speak directly with these companies, give them the platform. I think amongst younger people now, and I sort of really don't like generalising, but with sort of like social media, people now have the ability to create a platform for themselves. I think like entrepreneurship is sort of increasing amongst younger people, and that's part of having an impact. It's I have my own impact. It's not feeling that you're necessarily just a hamster on a wheel, but expanded and with many wheels and sort of a cog in society basically. It's the feeling that your decisions and what you do and the work that you do and your values, you can use it in a workplace to make some level of an impact. And that doesn't necessarily have to be changing the whole world. That could just be improving someone's life slightly, and that could be helping someone have a better retirement, or helping someone who's saving for a house be able to get the right product in order to be able to meet that goal. And I think the financial services industry has significant opportunity to make an impact on people's lives. It's quite core to mental health, to well-being, but it's just kind of, I guess, putting that across to people of what impacts can be made, and then giving people the opportunity to then go and make that impact as well in the workplace.
And with Generation Z entering the workforce now, it's very much about building a brand for themselves, a platform. And certainly what has been done in the past is definitely not going to work for them anymore. It's going to be again challenging for financial services, I guess.
I think so, especially when you think about how we are trying to use technology currently within our industry. So we just make a paper journey an online journey. So it's like a sort of like a bit of a find and replace, but that's not really working for people. You know, you talk about Gen Z, they want more of an ecosystem. What's in it for me? They want to get loads of hits in one go. I think about, you know, more of a connected environment. So, and how we as an asset management industry can come and work together with insurers and savers and health and AI, and how we can work as an ecosystem to be relevant to that customer, because they want their financial well-being looked after, which includes savings, investments, insurance and everything. But regulation has kind of compartmentalised all of that. So, you know, post RDR, the run for advisors to put all of their assets on platforms to generate an advisor remuneration as commission goes running out the door means that you have wealth advisors, retirement and drawdown specialists. You have a whole different segment that looks at insurance, and then you've got a whole different segment that looks at health. As a consumer, that doesn't work for me.